So here's a question I've been wrestling with. What if the ability to create perfectly fake, photorealistic videos content that's just indistinguishable from reality, what if that's not actually the threat we think it is? What if it's the catalyst we need to build a fundamentally more truthful and verifiable internet?
That's really the paradox we're facing, isn't it? Because we are now firmly in the era of what our sources are calling zero-shot reality creation. The tools have evolved so quickly that the very foundation of digital trust, the whole idea that seeing is believing, is just crumbling right under our feet.
And we're talking about massive technological leaps like the Mosaic AI Video Editor.
Yeah.
If you really dig into the materials we reviewed, the capabilities they're terrifyingly impressive. You give it a single photo, just one JPEG and a short voice clip, and it spits out a photorealistic video of that person saying whatever you tell it to.
And the immediate reaction, the gut reaction is just fear. It's the fear of deepfakes being industrialized. This isn't just for Hollywood VFX studios anymore. It's not state-level espionage. This is a consumer-grade feature in a web browser. The barrier to entry for propaganda, for misinformation, for just synthetic noise has basically collapsed to zero.
And of course, the industry has tried to respond. Their default answer is this thing called C2PA, the Coalition for Content Provenance and Authenticity. But the more we unpack it, the more we look at the architecture, you realize that C2PA it's a fundamentally flawed, centralized solution. It's like trying to put a Band-Aid on a structural wound.
Exactly. The core idea we're challenging today is that the answer can't be just fighting the fakes. That's a game you'll always lose. The faker will always have the advantage because generating this stuff is so cheap. The answer has to be building a new system, an anti-fragile system for verifying what's true, a whole new mechanism for trust.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. I'm Satosha.
And I'm Satoshi.
Okay, so let's unpack that. Let's start with just the sheer power we're dealing with here.
Yeah.
Because the real game changer, the thing that shifts this from just an interesting tool to a huge infrastructural problem is what the sources call the Mosaic AI UGC tile.
The UGC tile, yeah. UGC for user-generated content. It's a pretty modest name for what is, in effect, a zero-shot reality engine. The conceptual breakthrough here is the complete decoupling of human presence from human labor.
What do you mean by that?
Well, for all of human history, to make a video of someone talking, that person had to physically show up. They had to be there in the light performing the action.
Right. So time, location, physical effort, those were the bottlenecks.
Precisely. But now all you need is a static artifact of that person, a JPEG, maybe just a headshot from their LinkedIn profile, and a tiny sonic artifact, like a 10-second MP3 of their voice. The machine just infers and generates everything else.
And that has these immediate huge implications, especially for creating what the sources call an army of creators.
Oh, for a marketer, this is the holy grail. It is the dream of infinitely scalable content. You can scale your spokesperson, your brand's personality to infinity. But for a bad actor, a propagandist, it's an even more powerful tool. They can scale discord, create synthetic consensus, and push targeted narratives without a single human ever needing to actually participate.
Which brings us right back to why we have to understand the fragility of the industry's answer, C2PA.
C2PA's whole philosophy is based on baking the authenticity signature, the content credential, directly into the file's metadata, inside the JPEG or MP4 header. It's designed to see the file itself as the carrier of truth.
But the modern internet is basically a giant global engine designed to strip, compress, and re-encode data. So basing your entire trust system on fragile metadata just seems architecturally insane.
You're saying the internet is a global data shredder for anything non-essential.
Yes.
That's exactly right. Platforms care about bandwidth and storage. So if your whole authenticity check relies on data that gets deleted or corrupted when a video is uploaded to X or TikTok or WhatsApp, your solution is broken from the start. It's a centralized, certificate-based solution trying to fix a globally decentralized problem. The architecture is just a complete mismatch.
And that's the perfect framing for this, a centralized structure trying to control a wildly decentralized environment. And that's why we need to look beyond these corporate walled gardens for a real solution.
Absolutely. The solution has to be as decentralized and anti-fragile as the problem itself.
Before we dig into that decentralized fix, I just want to quickly welcome all our listeners. Thank you, as always, for the incredible response to the deep dive. We started this show with a pretty simple idea. Is there really space for this kind of deep research outside the usual campus settings or, the think tank chatter and some smoke-filled cafe from the 70s? And it's so clear that you're all as fascinated by these deep dives as we are. To keep doing this and to start creating high-quality videos that can actually show you the very tech we're analyzing, we really do need your help. We're trying to unlock funding for Mosaic AI Video Editor by hitting 1,000 subscribers across all platforms. It's the ultimate irony, isn't it? We want to get funding for Mosaic AI, the very app we're talking about, because their UGC tile is just a tiny fraction of what the full editor can do.
We have to understand the beast to fight it, and using the best tools available just make sure our analysis stays razor sharp.
So please, if you enjoy these discussions, subscribe on YouTube, YouTube Music, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Fountain.fm, any Podcast 2.0 app, or, wherever you listen. Every single subscription genuinely helps us go deeper.
And speaking of going deeper, we've actually put together a dedicated YouTube course that covers the nuances of Nostr. We really see Nostr as a potential sovereign solution to this whole problem of AI-generated synthetic video deepfakes, UGCs, all of it. The course is on YouTube, based on some of these deep dives. We'll put a link right in the description. If you want to explore the technical side of the solution, we highly recommend you check it out.
Okay, so let's dive into the core of the problem. We started with this thesis. The seeing is believing era is over. The mandate is no longer to try and identify the fake, which is a losing battle. It's to establish a robust, verifiable chain of authenticity for what's real. So let's start with the breakthrough itself. The industrialization of reality, Mosaic AI, and the zero-shot leap.
We really have to appreciate the scale of this achievement. As the sources describe it, Mosaic AI isn't just a video editor. It's more accurately positioned as a reality synthesizer. It completely changes the input-to-output ratio.
And the sources highlight the founders, Edish Jain and Kyle Wade, for achieving this one critical separation, decoupling human presence from human labor. I can now create an infinite number of videos of myself without ever having to be in front of a camera again.
Yeah.
That's a seismic shift in the economics of creating content.
Before Mosaic, if you wanted to create a high-fidelity synthetic video, like a classic deepfake, you needed a huge data set. You needed hours of training footage of the person, shot from multiple angles, complex camera setups to capture depth, and a heavy-duty rendering pipeline.
So you basically needed a small motion capture studio and a team of data scientists. The barrier to entry was high.
Right. Now you just need the UGC tile, which is the embodiment of this zero-shot breakthrough. Let's really get into the technical inputs, because this is where the magic is. The platform needs just three things: a single flat JPEG for the visual, a brief 10-second MP3 for the audio, and then a text prompt, the script you want the avatar to read.
And that speed, that minimal input requirement, that's what makes it so dangerous. It means almost anyone's public photo can be weaponized with almost no effort.
Precisely. Let's walk through the AI process, because it's a remarkable feat of machine learning that happens in just seconds. First, the AI agent takes that flat 2D JPEG. Since it only has one perspective, it has to perform this really sophisticated inference analysis to model the facial geometry.
Inference. So it's guessing the hidden parts, the depth, the curvature based on what it can see.
Exactly. It doesn't know the depth. It infers it with very high accuracy based on millions of training examples. From that inference, it generates a full depth map of the face. And this depth map lets the system build and rig a working 3D mesh. So think of it like creating a high-res digital puppet where the source was just a flat photo.
So it's not just a 2D cutout moving around. It's building a fully functional digital puppet from one picture, which gives the AI control over head movements and perspective changes.
Correct. And at the same time, it's working on the audio. It takes that 10-second sample and clones it. And crucially, it doesn't just copy the frequency of the voice. It analyzes the prosody, the rhythm, the stress, the intonation, and the specific timbre. Then it generates the new script in that perfectly cloned voice.
And the final piece is the sync, making sure the puppet's mouth actually matches the new audio.
The animation synchronization is that final, polished step. It maps the specific lip movements, called visemes, and all the subtle facial expressions, the micro movements around the eyes and brow to the generated audio track. The result is a photorealistic video of the person saying things they never said in their own voice, and to a casual observer, it is utterly indistinguishable from a real recording.
So now let's talk about the implications. That efficiency translates directly to infinite scale. What kind of superpower does this give to, say, a brand founder or a creator?
It's a fundamental change in economic constraints. Imagine a founder who's recorded one 10-second voice sample and uploaded their headshot. In the past, testing 1,000 different marketing messages meant 1,000 video shoots.
Months of work, actors,
Yeah.
edits.
Now they can generate 1,000 unique video ads instantly. Each one can test a slightly different call to action, a different emotional tone. The founder never has to turn on a camera again. The cost of creative iteration, which used to be the most expensive part of a marketing budget, just collapses to pennies in compute time.
So you've replaced a $10,000 multi-day production with a $10 button click. That efficiency is staggering.
And we have to talk about the globalization factor, the localization power. That one static photo, once it's rigged into a 3D mesh, can be made to speak Spanish or Japanese or Hindi fluently, and it maintains the founder's exact voice and delivery. The AI handles the perfect lip sync for those foreign languages, so you instantly break down language barriers. The creator becomes scalable not just in volume, but in geography.
And this immense economic efficiency is, paradoxically, what creates the societal threat. Because if something is infinitely cheap to produce, there's infinite incentive to flood the market with it.
Absolutely. The machine doesn't care about the output. The same efficiency that creates better training videos for a corporation also creates better propaganda for a political campaign. And this is where we make that pivotal transition. The industrialization of content creation inevitably leads to the industrialization of deception, which brings us to the first huge societal implication: the death of video evidence.
Right. If a photorealistic video of me can be generated from my public profile picture, saying or doing anything, then no video can be trusted on its face. The idea of video evidence in a legal or journalistic context is functionally dead.
We're moving from an era of expensive, bespoke manipulation to cheap, scaled manipulation. And the target isn't just one person's reputation, it's our shared consensus reality.
Let's get specific on that, synthetic consensus. If Mosaic can generate an army of creators to sell a product, the terrifying next step is an army of voters to sell a political narrative.
Exactly. Think of a bad actor trying to influence an election. They don't need to organize protests or run expensive ad campaigns anymore. They just need compute cycles. They can generate 10,000 unique photorealistic videos of concerned citizens. They can scrape headshots from public databases to represent diverse ages, ethnic backgrounds, socioeconomic appearances.
So you could have the concerned mother video, the frustrated small business owner video, the pensioner worried about taxes video, all reading from the same core script.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And the persuasive power of seeing 10,000 seemingly real, diverse people all echoing the same message, that's exponentially higher than reading 10,000 identical text posts. It creates the illusion of an organic, widespread social movement where in reality there's just one person operating a server.
The sources call this the flood strategy. If the cost is near zero, you just flood the entire information ecosystem.
Correct. The sheer volume of synthetic content, the noise, it just becomes overwhelming. The goal isn't necessarily to convince everyone of a specific lie anymore. The goal is to make finding the authentic human signal, finding the real voices of journalists or citizens, impossible.
It's a strategy of paralysis. If every source is potentially tainted, you just give up on trying to tell truth from fiction.
Which leads directly to what the sources call the verification crisis.
Well-
We can't rely on visual forensics anymore. We can't just look at a video and say, oh, the pixels look wrong. Why? Because the AI models are improving at a rate that is exponentially faster than human perception. We're simply losing the ability to tell the difference.
So we have to adopt a new default setting for how we consume media. The burden of proof has completely flipped.
Absolutely. The necessary paradigm shift is that we have to operate in a world where everything is presumed to be AI-generated advertising unless it's proven otherwise.
Yeah.
We're forced into this state of perpetual digital skepticism. The question isn't, is this fake? It's proof to me that this is real human communication, signed by a trusted identity, and not just cheap synthetic noise.
And that takes us directly to the centralized solution the industry has come up with, which seems completely ill-equipped to handle this new burden of proof.
The C2PA coalition, it's the big institutional attempt to fix this. You've got giants like Adobe, Microsoft, Intel, major news organizations all backing it. Their solution is called content credentials.
Okay, so it sounds good on paper. How does it actually work? Let's use that analogy of a digital birth certificate attached to the file.
That's a good way to think about it. They use what you could call a Russian doll method. When a file is created by a certified camera or software, the system generates a manifest. This manifest is the file's history, who, what, where, when, and it's embedded directly into the file's header.
So it's like a chain of custody stamp sewn into the lining of a coat.
Exactly. And that stamp is then cryptographically signed using the same technology that secures websites' X.509 certificates. If the file is edited, a new manifest is added, linking back to the previous one. It's a system for establishing a controlled history.
That seems fine for a closed system, like a document moving around inside Adobe's world. But this brings us to that key vulnerability you mentioned earlier, the metadata stripping problem. Let's really hammer this point home.
The fragility comes from the fact that C2PA relies entirely on the file being the carrier of truth. The truth lives in the metadata, but the reality of the internet is a relentless, aggressive optimization.
Wait, so you're telling me that every time I upload a video to Twitter or Instagram, the platform's first move is to save bandwidth?
Their first move is to save bandwidth and storage, so they aggressively re-encode the video. And during that compression, the C2PA signature, the content credential, is seen as nothing more than extra unnecessary baggage.
So a journalist posts a video from a C2PA certified camera, it hits the platform, and before anyone even sees it, the platform just shreds the proof.
It shreds the proof. The platforms could preserve it, but their economic incentive is to save money and increase speed. So they treat all that metadata as discardable, which means the file's original cryptographic fingerprint, its hash, is changed because the file's content has been altered by the compression.
So when I, the viewer, see that viral video, the original cryptographic link is just gone. I'm looking at what the source is called Orphan Data. The file has been separated from its birth certificate.
And their proposed fallback, this cloud recovery idea, also fails because of this. The idea is that platforms could centrally store the original signature and hash, but the moment the file is re-encoded, its hash changes.
So if the video I'm watching on my phone has hash Y, but the original signed video in Adobe's cloud had hash X, the system just says, nope, not the same video, even if they look identical to my eyes.
Precisely. The verification relies on an exact hash match, which the platform's standard procedure inherently breaks. The truth becomes unverifiable, not because it was faked, but because the distribution system destroyed the link.
That technical failure alone is damning. But let's get to the deeper flaw. Failure mode 2, centralized gatekeepers. This is where the technical failure creates a huge political vulnerability.
Absolutely. The whole thing is built on public key infrastructure, or PKI. To have a trusted signature, you need a certificate issued by a certificate authority, a CA.
So if the C2PA signature is the birth certificate, the CA is the government office that decides who gets to issue them in the first place.
That's the perfect analogy. And who controls the CAs? Major corporations like Adobe, Microsoft, or potentially governments that join the coalition, which forces the question, who decides who gets a verified human certificate?
And that immediately creates a massive censorship risk. A government could join C2PA, get that institutional legitimacy, and then just revoke the certificates of dissident journalists.
That is the core danger. A journalist records definitive proof of a human rights abuse on a C2PA camera. The video is signed correctly. But the moment their key is revoked by that central authority, their genuine reporting is instantly branded unverified. And in our new world, where everything is presumed fake unless proven otherwise, that real footage instantly gets tossed in the presumed AI pile. You've just censored the truth through an institutional backdoor.
I have to push back a little here. Doesn't that risk exist in any system, even decentralized ones?
That's a fair question. But the crucial difference is the scale and the control. C2PA enforces a monolithic global truth. If Adobe or a state actor revokes your key, your content is essentially unverified for the entire world. This creates a blue check problem at an infrastructural level. You get a two-tier web: institutional truth from verified corporations and governments versus the unverified masses of individual creators who are inherently suspect. It centralizes the power to dictate truth.
So the centralized model solves a technical problem, but creates a much bigger political authority problem. We need a solution where the signature can't be stripped and the authority can't be centrally revoked.
Precisely. Which brings us to the sovereign fix: Nostr and the decentralized immune system.
Okay, let's introduce Nostr nodes and other stuff transmitted by relays. The key difference here is that Nostr isn't trying to fix files or platforms. It's solving the problem of identity and signatures in a resilient way.
Nostr is designed to resist both platform stripping and central authority because it flips the whole concept. Its success comes down to one fundamental choice. It completely separates the signature from the file.
And as Chapter 4.1, detached signatures. The event is the truth.
Think back to the C2PA failure. The signature died because it was physically stuck inside the video file, which made it fragile. Nostr eliminates that. The creator doesn't embed anything in the video. Instead, they use their private key, their sovereign identity, to sign a separate, immutable Nostr event.
And a Nostr event is basically just a signed, time-stamped piece of text, right?
Yes. And inside that text event, it contains the SHA-256 cryptographic hash of the video file. It uses a protocol called NIP94 to do this.
Okay, so let's walk through the workflow. I make a video. I generate its unique cryptographic fingerprint, the hash. Then I use my established public key to sign a note that says, I, host speaker, attest that I created the video with this specific fingerprint. And I post that signed note to the global network of Nostr relays.
That is the core mechanism. The link is the immutable hash. The event effectively says, I, public key, stand behind the content with hash X at time T. And that signature is now floating on a distributed network of relays. It's immutable, it's tied to your key, and it's redundant across dozens of servers. This is where the anti-fragility comes from.
So even if I upload my video to TikTok, and TikTok shreds all the metadata and compresses the file, the cryptographic signature is safe on the Nostr relays.
Precisely. The video file on TikTok is orphan data to C2PA, but it is verifiable data for Nostr. A simple browser plugin could instantly calculate the hash of the video you're watching. It then asks the Nostr relays, has any key I trust attested to a file with this hash?
And if the hash doesn't match the one in the Nostr event, my client would flag it. It means the video was altered or so heavily re-encoded that its integrity can't be confirmed.
And if the hash does match, your client gets the immutable signed event directly from the creator's key. Verification complete. The source of truth isn't the fragile file. It's the resilient, detached signature on a decentralized network, completely outside the control of any platform or coalition.
Okay, that solves the metadata stripping problem.
Mhm.
But what about the mosaic problem? The ability to just generate a perfect clone of a person. How does Nostr solve the fake persona problem?
This is the critical next layer. This is what elevates Nostr beyond just a technical integrity check. C2PA only verifies the camera. Nostr has to verify the trusted identity behind the camera. If Mosaic can generate 1,000 fake faces, a bad actor can generate 1,000 new disposable private keys to sign their synthetic content.
So a random new key signs a video that looks and sounds exactly like me. How does a viewer know it's not the real me?
This is where Nostr's social graph model acts like a decentralized immune system. When that fake video appears in your feed, your Nostr client does more than just check the signature's validity. It asks the crucial social question: is this key followed by anyone I trust or anyone they trust?
So it leverages the human element of trust, our existing social connections, but codifies it cryptographically.
Exactly. The fake key will have 0 followers in your network. It's cold, untrustworthy, socially isolated.
Wait, I have to be skeptical for a second. If trust is based on who I follow, aren't we just swapping a corporate certificate authority for a social one? A kind of decentralized aristocracy of keys.
That's a really important challenge, but the difference is profound. The Nostr web of trust is local and fractal, not global and monolithic. In C2PA, the CA dictates truth for everyone. In Nostr, you dictate your own truth. If you trust 5 journalists and they trust 10 sources, your client validates content signed by those 15 keys. If a new key is outside your trusted social radius, your client can flag it as unverified for you.
So the fake video of me is visually perfect, but the signature fails my personal social check because the key isn't connected to my web of trust. My client flags it as untrusted possible AI slop.
That's the signal. The real you signs content with your established private key, the one followed by people who interact with you. That established social validation is the source of authenticity. The face can be faked, but the socially anchored cryptographic identity is real.
That is a profound shift. It moves the entire defense away from visual forensics, which is a losing game, and into social consensus anchored by cryptography, which is an anti-fragile defense.
The comparison is just so stark, it's worth summarizing it one last time to reinforce the fix.
Wait, let's do it. First, the source of trust.
C2PA is a centralized authority, a corporate or government CA. Nostr is a decentralized social graph of your personal web of trust.
Next, where the signature lives.
C2PA signature is embedded in the file, making it fragile. Nostr's is a detached event on relays, making it anti-fragile.
And the verification logic. What question is being asked?
C2PA asks a technical question. Is this file format valid? Nostr asks a human question. Did the real person, the one I socially trust, actually sign this?
And finally, resistance to the modern web.
C2PA fails if the platform strips the metadata. Nostr works even if the file is copied, compressed, or re-encoded 1,000 times. as long as you can calculate the hash.
So what does this all mean as we reflect on this?
I think the conclusion is stark. The UGC tile in Mosaic AI marks the definitive end of the seeing is believing era. Reality is now a programmable, scalable asset. That industrialization is permanent. We can't stop the technology.
But we have to adapt our digital immune system at the same speed. The moment the cost of fakery hits zero, the value of centralized fragile verification systems also goes to zero. The system of truth verification has to be separated from the systems of data distribution and corporate control.
We're at a critical juncture. The choice is no longer between a world with or without synthetic media. The choice is about governance. Do we want a world where truth is dictated by centralized authorities who control the certificates? Or do we want a world where truth is verified and anchored by a decentralized network of sovereign trust?
And Nostr offers that path forward. By shifting trust from the file, which can be faked or altered, to the creator's cryptographic identity and their social graph, we build a web where the thousands of AI personas are just visible for what they are, ephemeral, untrusted noise. And only the signed, socially verified signal can be reliably heard.
And look, this is a community effort. The analysis in this deep dive is based on publicly available information, and this is all still evolving. We invite you, our listeners, to share your own analysis and sources in the comments. We really do want to hear your thoughts.
Are we being too optimistic about Nostr's ability to scale this web of trust fast enough? Are we maybe too critical of the gatekeeping in C2PA? We're always looking for collaborators to review our content, so if you're a finance expert, a crypto native, a systems engineer with a sharp eye, please reach out. We want to keep the quality of this discussion as high as possible.
Remember, understanding the architecture of the problem is always the first and most crucial step toward building the solution we so desperately need.
As always, keep searching, keep the quest on.